Howdy folks, welcome to another episode of the Scannell Agenda. I'm Steve Scannell, this is Pam Scannell.
Hello.
And today's date is October 27th, 2015. And it's Tuesday. And this is show number 39, entitled, I Really Do Design Monorails. Now, I think I've had a breakthrough. And I really was mentioning to Pam today, you know, I asked God for these gifts and somehow I get them. I think they're gifts, I really do. So now monorails, everyone likes. Everyone loves the monorails, right? I mean, you think of Disney World, you think of modernity and efficiency and a nice ride that's elevated and a nice view. And just first class, and I'm no different. I feel the same way. I love monorails. On the tripe system report, I think I mentioned monorails, but I don't think I really got into it. So I'd like to have a look at a couple designs that I'm working on now. And these are things that I look at and I say, wow, I think I nailed it. I think I got it. Now, there are two different sizes. This here is a larger size monorail. This is monorail A and monorail B. So there would be two cars. You can see an outline of one car there. That's a very crude outline of a monorail car. And in here, in this cavernous area here, and this distance center to center is 12 feet to give you some scale. And here's a man down here to give you some scale. And someone's sitting, another person sitting down there. Okay, so to give you an idea of the scale too, these are pipes. And this is a 3-foot tall by 6-foot wide pipe. This is a 20-inch main, or 24. And this is a 10-inch main, or 12-inch, somewhere in there. And this is a hanging monorail, or gondola style, as some people call it. So what you're looking at here is the track pipe would be in this configuration here, and this here is what you'd call a stand or a base for the rails, and that's where it joins there. Now, this I'm sure, 100% sure, would need to be improved on. Now, up in here again, you could have a couple of different track sizes. You could have a 3-foot small gauge, and then a standard 4/8 gauge. You could also have a 6-foot gauge in here. And the reason I mention that is because the reason I designed this to be 12 foot on center apart is you could also run a land yacht that's that would have a 12-foot gauge, monorail gauge. And that would not be a monorail, but you could run one of these land yachts that might be about 20 feet wide and maybe 100 feet long on this. But it would be very lightweight. It would not be a cargo carrier. Now, let's say this might be a north and south run. And this might be north, rather, and this might be going south, you know, and so there's a lot going on here. Now the base, this is a post going down here, might be a 4-legged post. And then the pipe itself would be supported in 5 different locations here as shown, and that's a little monorail there on top of a pipe. That's a pipe. So let's see. So the 12-foot gauge for larger cargo would actually be working and be more workable on the, I'm going to take this down now. We'll look at another monorail. But a 12-foot gauge system, oops. Now, here we have your local, I call this the Scannell panel tripe or pipe. So this here is a monorail. It's a track pipe. And here's a pipe 30 inches. And this is 6 feet from here to here. So this is a local small system, and this would be 6 feet across at its top. Now, you've got different conduits here. And now you've got some steel in here. And I didn't show the bracket, or the base, rather, which would be down here. So the reason for the 6 feet is it's adaptable to a 6-foot gauge. 6, 12, 18 gauge. I'm working on that system now. And so car pods or passenger pods could ride on this. And you might have seals with an air ride. And I've got this designed with the drive systems on either side and the braking and drive systems on either side. So it would be a very low, you know, like a Ferrari or a Maserati or a Porsche. It would be very low to the rail. So you'd be really flying along. Now this is a person here you're looking at who's about a little less than 6 feet tall. I don't know if it's not exact scale, but these are panels here. And this is the pod, and this is the drive frame and chassis, etc. Now in the future, your cars will be in 2 sections. Your cars, and this is not new, but your cars will have a frame section, and then your passenger pod will come off of that. So the future is, who knows, but I'm trying to work on this system because I think we're ready for a 200-year design. My dad was a planner, and he was really good. He was very frustrated at times when people don't kind of wake up and smell the coffee, and I'm no different than him on that. But I think I've hit on a couple of different good monorail systems, and these are meant to work with each other. So, for instance, with the first monorail I showed you, trucks can actually drive, and normal trains, that is the trains of today, could be on such a system. It's not likely because these are lightweight systems. But for tourist trains, small gauge, etc., it could work. So I really do design monorails. And I've been working on this stuff quite a while because the theme is we've got to switch over on the infrastructure, and we've got to use the new green fuels of the future, which are hydrogen, compressed air, and oxygen-rich compressed air. Now these will be centralized and available everywhere. So these will be produced probably on the plains up in Canada and Alaska, anywhere where you have wind or waves, or the plains mills up from Texas where they want to put the Keystone Pipeline. Well, that's exactly where I want to run these tripe lines. And I don't think the monorails would be suitable. However, if you run the wide gauge, let's say a 12-foot gauge with 2 pipes in simplest form, that's what it would be, then you can pump and ship oil north and south on that, and that would be a really good backbone to start with for the tripe system, is on the plains from Texas up through the Dakotas and then into Canada, and maybe down into Mexico. So what you're connecting in would be your wind energy on the plains would be producing not electricity to ship, because you can't do it. That was the problem on Georges Bank. It's the same problem, only worse of a problem actually on the plains, because the distances are so great that generating electricity and then shipping that electricity from windmills that would be, let's say we had 500,000 windmills on the plains from Canada to Texas, okay? And they all generated, let's say, electricity, and then we tried to put that through the wires and make that system work. Well, first of all, the expense on something like that would be absolutely astronomical, enormous, because all these electrical systems for wind to electric are very much more expensive than the wind to compressed air and wind to hydrogen. So your smart grid of the future is using these green fuels. That's what the real new smart grid is all about, using the green fuels. But the enormous cost of trying to make it work with wind to electric right to your home is very problematical. And so instead of the Keystone Pipeline, we'll call it the TUGS pipeline, T-U-G-S, and what did I say? Tripe Transit, Unified Utility, and Green Grid System. That's the new name, I guess. And that more aptly describes what the whole system is, rather than just describing a track pipe, or tripe, as I call it. So this monorail system, these monorail systems are track pipes. They represent, in one case, a larger monorail system, which has as many as three. Here's, where do I have that? As many as 3 monorails. Is that it? Yeah, here it is. Yeah, I'll just hold this up here for a second. And this is not as good as quality as the other ones Jamie and I worked on for quality. But you can see that that's a little bit different configuration, and it gives you that 3rd monorail way down low. And it gives you a lot more of the pipage. Now, let's not forget, these pipes aren't just pipes to transport the hydrogen or the water or the compressed air. These are tanks. These are storage tanks that store energy, and it's canned energy and electricity when we need it, such as I call hydrogen is frozen electricity. So that's very important to understand when we're building these monorail systems, and you say, "Whoa, that looks a little expensive, it looks a little too big." Well, we actually need the diameter of the pipe to be not too tiny, you know. We need to build this 200-year system knowing that we're going to grow into it. So very important is the fact that you understand that these pipes that hold the compressed air and hydrogen and oxygen-rich compressed air, very important is the fact that you understand that these are tankage systems, not just conduit delivery systems for these new green energy, let's call it the common denominator energy systems. Because we're going from the dinosaur systems over to the green energy, and these will help us to bridge, as I said earlier. So the 3-foot by 6-foot that I showed you earlier will more than likely be available for car pods. And it's not your wheels and your frame, not your drive system, your engine, your batteries and all that, but just your pod for your living space, your driving area in the car. That will be put into this 3 by 6 foot pipe. So it's 3 feet tall, 6 foot wide, and off you go. I spoke to a guy that called me on the phone and said, you know, pneumatics is not really the answer. And he's got the better way, and I agree, it's a better way. And I forgot his name, but he's the guy that called me about, a month ago, and we were talking for a long time. This guy's a very, very knowledgeable guy. I'm going to hopefully give you his name and have him on the show if I can get him back, call him back, etc. But he convinced me pneumatics is probably not the way to go. You want to have individualized electric drive, little go-kart type things for, let's say, pallets or car pods or what have you. And they would know where to go. So the switching on that would be a lot better compared to the switching in a pneumatic system. Now, that's not to say pneumatic systems won't work here and there. Looks like we got, so anyway, now, so if you had a system, two monorail systems, one would be very simple and lightweight, and that's the squared off, what did I call that? Scannell panel, because everything looks panelized. Now that would be your simple and local tripe system. You see how this is very squared off here? Okay, that's your local monorail, and your regional monorails will be the other one that I showed you, which would be something like this, something like that. Now, having two monorail systems, maybe that's not wise, but I think that would work better than just the one system. We're gonna need hydrogen everywhere. We're gonna need compressed air everywhere, because our compressed air will be running the air conditioning and refrigeration and many other things. There's some interesting hybrid cars that are gasoline powered with compressed air. And that might be part of the future, but I like the electric cars. What's the name of that company that does the electric car now? Tesla?
I think so.
Those are awesome. Those are rocket ship cars. And so you might have one of those, but you'll have a pod, and that pod, you'll get in the pod and you'll have yourself injected into this pipe, and you'll probably go 600 miles in a very short time. I don't want to say how long, but it's a very quick system and very safe. So I do design monorails. Well, do they get built? You know, well, remains to be seen, you know, but I want to be in the game doing this infrastructure work. Now, my work's very unique, of course, because it's a track pipe system. We're carrying the energy of the future from the windmills over these pipes. So we're getting the two bangs for the buck. We're getting the energy, and we're also getting the transit system. And as the ad on TV would say, now how much would you pay, right? Well, I'm going to throw in the utilities also piggyback on here, because you got water utilities for potable water, you get drainage water, you've got pollution water maybe, or you've got effluent from a coal plant being piped somewhere else to be treated somewhere else. That's very possible, because we can compress the smoke from the stack, let's say, of a coal plant once it gets primarily scrubbed, and then we can treat it elsewhere. We can really cut down on pollution with this, with these multiple conduits, because there are so many conduits here that we're going to be able to, let's say, pump granular pelletized plastic for recycling, and this goes with the recycling system in that we can incentivize the right kind of recycling to do, and then, you know, penalize the stuff we don't want, and before you know it, we'll all be on board with doing it right on the recycling. And so the plastics, instead of going to the landfill or going to the incinerator, well, they'll be reused again and melted down, or pelletized and put in the pipe. So this is a multi-utility system. You've got your sanitation needs are well provided here. Let's say you had a conduit here for gray water and the urine. Well, that's very important, because we can use that directly on grass plants, et cetera, et cetera. And you might pelletize the some of the other products, number two, let's say, with the compost as I've got it planned. And then the sewer system of today could be outmoded, and basically the sewer systems of today will be rendered obsolete. And I hope that's the case, because you know, the other day I did this show on the ponds on the Cape are getting dirty and over-nutrified, and the harbors might getting a little dirty. So we need to give this a lot of attention. So even though this is a world-class system that I'm designing here for the world, if we can do some of the figuring here on the Cape and then put it on the table and see, well, does this make sense? Is it too expensive? What's it going to cost? I mentioned it might cost about $300 trillion for the whole world to switch over to this system. In the final analysis, 300 trillion, that might be about right. But you got to consider these are major transit systems. Our roads are getting so overused, and I consider it now, with this onset of this system, let's say it does develop into a possibility. The fact is that our bridges that are decaying won't be necessarily seen as a negative thing, because, hey, you let your bridges go, well, bang, you let your bridges go. It's a good thing we didn't rebuild all these bridges with steel and cement, because if we did, then they'd be outdated in a matter of 5 years, because the new bridges will probably be more composite and last longer. And the road infrastructures will not have to be nearly as expanded when we get this tripe system going, or the TUGS system, Transit Utility Green Grid. So I really do design monorails, and I can prove it. I've got hundreds of pages of these things. And I like the fact that this is kind of the Porsche you're looking at here. Now this comes apart from this drive system. You've got drive system here that corresponds into the rail with a maglev. You're very low and you're very tight and very safe. Look at that. Look at that safety built in there. That's dovetailed in. That's a dovetail. That's beautiful. And of course you got a 30-inch main here. Yep. Oh, that's good. That's good work. Hundreds of these drawings I've done. And what are you going to carry here, down here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pipes. Well, who knows? What are you going to carry here? Hydrogen? I got this one here, this tiny little pipe. That's for electrical, right there. I don't know if that'll be the way we design it. But that 30-inch main, if you're looking at all the floods we're having, oh my God, the floods in this country. And say, oh, no, I don't believe in global warming. Oh, no, that's ridiculous. Global warming? Well, where are all these intensive floods back to back? They're all over the place. They say all this stuff is global weirding and the weather's changing and we're getting deluged or we're getting no rain. You know, and that's what they're saying, and that's what's happening. These rain events, you know. So these track pipe systems, let's say, you'll have these large main pipes, and let's say for this system here, these 2 pipes here that are mainly to carry your pods, well, we can in a pinch, we can use those for water, for drainage water, to get that drainage water out, and we'll have, as I see it, we will have 8,000 psi of compressed air to be working with, and the hydrogen. So we'll have the power and the plumbing with this system. The power comes from the compressed air. If you need a lot of power in a hurry, you can use the compressed air to drive a hydraulic system, probably. That's what we do. Or a pneumatic system. And then you'd have these massive pumps. And the pumps can also come in on the rail system as well. So this is a mega system in all these areas of disasters that we're having. Wow, it's enormous that this system can bail us out. I really do believe that in so many ways. I have solved the energy crisis with this system. I'm a fisherman and a boat builder, and all this stuff is off the shelf, as I've said before. There's nothing fantastic or fantasy land about this. And I only have this stuff, Pam, and I keep repeating this at home, and I'm sitting there on my clipboard next to you, and we're on the lazy boy chairs. We have beautiful lazy boy chairs, and we're sitting next to each other, right? And I'm saying, oh, I just thank God. I thank God he gives me this stuff. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night, you know, and I'll jot something down. But I've been working hard on this. So if you think I'm a welfare bum, or if I think I'm a welfare bum, I'm really not. I have been productive. So I designed while we were down at the beach today. Where is that? Oh yeah. I designed, I couldn't help it, a little donut jetty. And that's the new part of the jetty. That's the old part of the jetty. And here we are at the beach. And I'm looking out there. And I've done this many times. Many times. So that's another thing. In the newspapers, there's been a lot of talk about the erosion problems. And boy, I've gotten into that. So I'm going to talk about coastal erosion coming up. Because I got the answers for the coastal erosion, and there's basically two parts. Reefs, R-E-E-F-S. I still got this Bell's palsy on the left. I'm a little paralyzed right there, but that's all right. The reefs are for fisheries and to protect for coastal erosion. And to put people to work, 3. This stuff can really put people to work. It's gainful employment, and we really need that. Now, the other thing is my sand dredges that I use are pretty good. And I've got a file on sand dredges. I used to be pretty good at digging sand with a shovel, huh? So if you Google up the ditch that divided Nantucket, they say I was pretty good with a shovel. I could dig all day. So what? Hey, this stuff's good. This stuff is really good. And I hope that we get to move to Florida, and I hope this hits, Pam, because if it does, then we'll be doing really well, and the world will be doing really well. And for the glory of God, that's why we do this, right? All right, that's the Scannell agenda. Thank you very much, folks.